Hi, here's some real quick 10 predictions that I'm going to make for 2014. Before I do, just a reminder that I'm just a dude. I'm not a prophet. I can't see the future. So take these for what they're worth. It'll be interesting to see how many of them are right on. So that's mainly why I'm putting them down, just to kind of get a view and a metric to see if I'm really understanding what's going on in the world or not. Number one, I predict there will be a dust-up between China and Japan, China and the Philippines, China and Vietnam. I predict the U.S. will do absolutely nothing about it other than shows of force. And China will continue to do piranha attacks where you bite off just little chunks of flesh of what you want, metaphorically. And the U.S. will not do anything about it, with the one exception of maybe in Africa and Latin America, where China is attempting to expand its influence. There might be some minor pushback there, especially in Africa. But other than that, I don't see the U.S. really stepping in much. Number two, everyone's been predicting, including myself in the past, a big war between Israel and Iran. I still see it possibly in the future, but I don't think it's going to happen in 2014. I think there could be a smaller war. I'll actually predict it, where Israel goes in and cleans out Hezbollah and other Islamic terrorist cells that are operating in Lebanon and the Palestinian Authority controlled areas. Could be significant fighting, but I don't think there'll be a major war. Israel could even go into parts of Syria, but there'll be limited incursions and they'll back out. Number three, I predict there will be political gains for the Tea Party or paleo conservatives against both rhino Republicans in name only, and Democrats. I think with Obamacare and the incompetence of the Obama government, there's going to be some payback. But it's the media and all the various forces in our culture are going to fight against that. So even though I think there'll be some gains, excuse me, I'm not sure how significant they will be, but it will tip things more towards the conservative Tea Party angle, if only slightly. Number four, continued disaster of Obamacare will call for its removal in 2014. Just as horrible as Obamacare is, it won't last. There'll be all sorts of modifications to it, patches to it, but ultimately the debate will begin, as planned, whether we want to go to a single-player system or we want to go back to the old system. And that will play out further down the road, but the debate will start in earnest. Number five, government spending and the government debt will go $2 trillion in the red in 2014. That may not be verifiable until 2015 or 2016 after the official metrics are revised, but I would expect we're going to go $2 trillion in the red and continue that direction. Number six, we're going to have continued accelerated trade deficits. We're going to have record deficits with a lot of countries. Maybe not China, but it will be close to the record high. But other countries, we're also going to start having trade deficits. And actually, I didn't put this in my 10 predictions, but I think that Trans-Pacific Partnership will actually be, I'm going out on a limb here, will be defeated, but a lot of the other trade pact negotiations that are going on in tandem with it will slide right through. And we'll have to investigate what all those are because they're very quiet. Number seven, a lot of people are talking about financial collapse and rebalancing of currencies, and I think that's coming, but I don't think it's going to hit in 2014. I have reasons for that. Some of them religious, so I'm going out on faith and saying it. But I think 2015 might be more of the year when all that stuff starts to break towards the end of 2015. So I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that it's not going to happen in 2014. But at the same time, I'd advise getting out of debt. Always a good plan. having your 30 to 6 month supply of food and water. If you're like me and you don't really, you talk about prepping and you don't really do it, at least strive for like 15 days and go for 30. It's always a good thing to do. Get out as much debt as you can. If you're in a financially kind of vulnerable position, even if it requires selling your house and making some changes, I would advise doing that. I'm just advising that, again, not because I can see the future, but because that's just good common sense. And I think eventually things will, your money is going to eventually buy less. So thinking ahead and planning for that is always a good thing. And number 8, speaking of that, I predict that interest rates and inflation will begin to rise. They're already rising. It's just kind of hard to detect because in some asset classes, and again, I'm not an economist or a trader or any of that type of stuff, but just from my limited reading, it does look like inflation's kicking in, but it's limited to only certain types of things. Most things that you buy, like electronics, stuff like that, it hasn't really hit too badly yet. Food prices are up, but I would expect towards the end of 2014 that you're going to see interest rates finally start to go up, and kind of setting the stage for the real collapse sometime in 2015. And you're going to see inflation, it being harder to cover and hide it. Number 9, there's going to be a lot of talk about various things, about how the NSA is spying on everybody and how that's got to be curtailed, and how we've got to repeal Obamacare, how we've got to close the border. But I don't expect anything really significant to happen. I think it's just going to be status quo, where our problems just continue to fester. Though I expect a lot of talk about how things should be different, and that talk will kind of play out in the 2014 elections, which will help more conservative / Tea Party candidates get in. But because of the controlled media and the backlash of those who control the culture, that gain again will be kind of muted, but there will be some gains. Number 10, there will be a lot more efforts for gun control. It's unfolding. Californians just had to register all their guns. Connecticut, or will have to start to, or more types of guns. Connecticut passed a law where everyone has to register guns. New York used their gun registry to go out and declare after the fact certain types of weapons illegal, and then went out and confiscated them. So you're just going to see more end runs as far as trying to get people to register for coming, slowly picking away at types of personal armaments that will be declared illegal later after they've got everybody registering them. So it won't happen in all states, but more the northern, or more the blue states, the left-wing states, I would expect more and more gun control efforts to really be pushed next year. So like I said, nothing really earth-shattering in my predictions. Probably anybody who's watching things could make the predictions that I made. The calls that are interesting are, I'm predicting there's not going to be an economic collapse in 2014, and I don't think there's going to be a major war in the Middle East. But again, I could be wrong on both counts. I'm hoping I'm right. So I'm looking at 2014 as a good year to get right with your Maker. If you're not a Christian, I would recommend that you become one. What is a Christian? A Christian is just someone who acknowledges that they're a sinner before God. They compare themselves to the righteous standard that the Bible presents, and realize that they fall short, and realize that falling short in any sort of way could bring judgment upon you, and instead wisely accepting that Jesus paid the price on the cross for all the sins that you've ever done or ever will do. And all you have to do is accept what he did on the cross for you, and believe that God rose him from the dead. I'm paraphrasing Romans 10:13 now, and you shall be saved. All you have to do is believe that Jesus is who he said he was and did what he said he did. And if you believe that, I believe that you are saved for all eternity. There's various verses in the Bible, like in Ephesians, it talks about you being sealed with the Holy Spirit the moment you first believe. So if you're not a Christian, if you don't have that guarantee, and I know for myself, if I faced God and a holy, 100% righteous and just God, and tried to say I was a good person, He analyzed everything I ever did or ever thought, I know I'd be coming up short. So I'm going to grab Jesus' hand and thank Him for what He did. And I'd advise you doing that too. That's probably the biggest decision you can make if you haven't already made that. If you are a Christian and you're walking in compromised life, 2014 would be a good time to really seek God and try to live life as the new creation that the Bible says you are when you believe in Him, and get serious about your walk with Jesus. I disagree with a lot of people. I think once you're saved, you're always saved, and I know there's a debate about that, but I think that life's going to get rough beyond 2014. It's going to get rougher in 2014, and if you're not solid in your faith, there's going to be greater temptations to get derailed. And I think as the darkness in our society kind of grows, being a light and actually living a holy life and taking Jesus serious will ultimately enable God to use you in just amazing ways in the future, and you'll be really blessed by doing that. So I encourage that. On the material front, again, I would suggest just trying to envision yourself living, let's say, 75% of your buying power of now, probably living with 50% of your buying power now, and being able to ride out perhaps a good chunk of time. Being unemployed would be the goal, realistically, for most of us who live paycheck to paycheck. That's not going to be doable. But the closer you can get to that and start thinking about it, the better off you'll be. At the same time, I'd advise everybody to still continue to be generous and to give generously to the people who are in need as Christ would want you to. And that's my personal goal for this year, is to be better in that. So those are my predictions, a little bit of advice, nothing earth-shattering. God bless. Thanks for listening.